And welcome to All About Health. I'm Steve Syatt here on KRLA Radio. There's a new name in high-quality vegan cuisine, and it's on the fast track towards gaining national recognition for innovation and excellence. From Santa Cruz, California-based The Amazing Protein Company comes Lika, that's spelled Lika, the next generation of meat alternatives for the burgeoning vegan market. Swaminathan is the founder and CEO of Amazing Protein Company, and we're pleased to have him here on KRLA this evening. Welcome, Swami.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks very much.
Talk to us a little bit about the Amazing Protein Company and how it got its start.
I've been either vegan or vegetarian my whole adult life, and when I have 5 children, when they were little, they also were raised vegetarian. And when they were about 8 or 9 or 10 years old, they'd have their friends over, and they would ask me not to embarrass them and serve barbecue meat to their friends. And I said, well, I'll make something they like. So I developed Lika really for my kids' friends initially. And what happened very quickly was we'd get calls in the evening from their parents asking what it was we gave their kids that they were so excited about, and started serving it at potlucks at school. And I noticed our stuff would disappear, and the meat, the turkey, chicken, beef would all still be there. Innocuous as it seemed, at that point I recognized that there was a certain buzz about our product that was very attractive to kids, which is really the hardest audience to satisfy with food. And so I put it in the background, and we did many years of R&D perfecting the product and our infrastructure with the company, and did pilots for a few years with places like Stanford Hospital and Stanford University and UC Berkeley and UC Santa Cruz, and began to test the waters. We also did some pilots with Whole Foods in Northern California. And that led us up to our launching the product with a partnership with Whole Foods in Southern California.
If you get the kids' attention and you get them to like what you're doing, you're in good shape.
Yeah, it's a hard audience to fool, and it's a hard audience to satisfy. Lucky for us, those are the millennials of today.
You know, what's really also important, I think, to add to that is that this is an audience that probably likes eating hamburgers all the time. And you're now giving them plant-based food that mimics meat, and they're loving it.
Absolutely. People absolutely love it. And just as it happened then, over 20 years ago, what we're finding out now that the most enthusiastic customers we have are not vegans or vegetarians, but people who eat meat, who would eat meat free if it tasted fantastic. And after these last 9 weeks launching in the top 9 Whole Food stores in Southern California, we've actually seen that over half our customers were people who ate meat. Usually the people who are most excited are people who eat meat. They're open to eating non-meat food, but they're not going to compromise taste or quality.
Swami, can you talk to us a little bit about the health benefits of switching from meat, or for those that are going to continue eating meat, at least cutting back on meat and eating your product, Lika, that is going to, again, give you that taste of meat and that texture of meat and be incredibly delicious and not make you miss it at all? What are the health benefits of making the switch?
First of all, to quote a vendor at the Santa Cruz Farmers Market who sells grapes, he says, there's no cholesterol, higher protein, much lower fat. Lika itself, by itself, has no sodium, half a gram of fat, 23 grams of protein, 7 grams of carbs per 4-ounce serving. Of course, we mix seasonings with it, but starting with a base of none of those things, the end products are always healthier and have much less fat. The other benefits really are that you don't feel heavy after eating Lika and having a meal, and I think this applies to all proteins. And actually, I did a very scientific study years ago in New York when I was a cab driver. And I would get people in the cab early in the morning, and every once in a while I'd say, are you vegetarian? And they would like, how did you know? And I'd say, well, you're alert, you're wide awake. And that really is germane to the point that it takes much less effort for the body to digest plant protein. And at night, that is blood that would normally be nourishing the brain is going to the stomach to digest animal protein. So there are a lot of health benefits from it, and also too, it's not just health for individuals; it's health for the planet too. So we've served over 20,000 customers have bought our products in Whole Foods since January, middle of January, adding a store a week. Whole Foods, in turn, has saved over 7.5 million gallons of water for the planet using Lika versus an animal protein. So it's those benefits too. We see this opportunity also, not just domestically but globally also in countries where children are malnourished. We can easily double the protein in a lot of foods that kids are eating in these third world countries, like India and Asia. And that's what I think a lot about, even when we're in these stores like Venice or downtown LA. I think about these little kids because I've spent a lot of time living there and how this could actually make their lives healthier. And Leica adapts because it's such a versatile protein, which I'm sure we'll get into, and because of its flavor and texture, it adapts to any cuisine because it has no aftertaste and basically a base, palate when you start with, so you can add anything or texture it any way you want.
Let's talk about the Leica line of vegan cuisine itself and get everybody hungry.
Okay, well, we started in Whole Foods. I'll start with that, with our Leica Vegan Classic Barbecue and our Leica Beef and Broccoli. And these have been two really popular items. Most people really think the barbecue is meat. They can't tell the difference. In one of the Whole Food stores, which has the highest grossing meat department of any Whole Food store in California, Nevada, Arizona, Hawaii, we had customers come up and they would try it, and all they would say to me was "no meat, no meat," over and over again. And that's part of the benefit of the products. But those were the first two we've launched. Since the success of that, we're going into phase two and adding some more dishes from other cuisines. So we'll be adding our coconut curry with Leica and our tomato masala curry with Leica. And these curries are absolutely cooked to perfection. Our Indian chef is one of the finest chefs in the world. He has some restaurants in the LA area also, and he often has some of the star chefs from the Food Network call him after eating in his restaurant, saying it's the best Indian food they've ever had. These aren't $5 or $10 a plate meals. These are meals that are, you paid in a restaurant $30, $40 for.
It really is truly amazing what you can do in preparing foods with plant based materials.
Yeah, well, yes. For example, most people are familiar with the tandoori cooking in Indian cooking. It's a clay oven, and you have to marinate the proteins beforehand. So whether it's lamb or chicken, they have to marinate it. So when you marinate Leica and cook it in a tandoori oven, which it tastes absolutely fantastic, we have to cut back on use less marinade than they use for meat because Leica absorbs the marinade much faster. And we demonstrated this on a Facebook Live show with Jane Velez Mitchell, the former CNN anchor, a few weeks ago, and we made our buffalo wing nuggets. And I believe people can go to Facebook and search for Jane Velez, Velez Mitchell, and you'll see that it was on the 15th of March. If you marinate chicken for nuggets, you're marinating it for hours. Ours took 45 seconds on camera to marinate.
Now, there's a lot of vegan choices out there, Swami. You're entering a very tightly competitive market, but yet you've been able to create in Leica a food product that really truly mimics meat, allows you to flavor it the way that you would flavor meat, and has every possible kind of texture where I don't believe your competitors have anything like that. Am I right?
Yeah, that is the case. And the reason for that is that Leica is hydrophilic, which means it absorbs flavors and sauces, whereas most other plant proteins are hydrophobic. In fact, a conversation I had the other day with a gentleman who has one of the top medical talk shows on alternative health, asked me about dealing with the denatured proteins. And once proteins are cooked, they don't usually absorb flavor. That's not the case with Lika. And so we can cook it to any texture we want, as well as add any flavor or any kind of sauce on the spectrum, basically from smoke to coconut cream or whatever. There's nothing we can't add with Lika and adjust its flavor and texture. That's what people have been doing with animal protein forever. Now, with Lika, you can do the same thing with a plant protein. The difference is that others, because they don't absorb flavors in the manufacturing process, they have to be pre-seasoned. Otherwise, they don't have a way to get flavor into those products. And not only are they pre-seasoned, they're pre-textured. So what you get out of the package, that's what you've got to work with. And it's very limited. I make this analogy sometimes. What if the only meat in the world available was salami? I mean, salami meatballs, salami meatloaf. I mean, it's not much different. They can put sauces on it, but they can't change the inherent texture of the product. That's what sets Lika apart. And by the way, that's what has created such a buzz in Whole Foods, because it's enabled us to attract customers that come into Whole Foods that they didn't realize would eat vegan cuisine. They'll come in. If they see quinoa and Brussels sprouts, they walk away. They don't tell anybody. They don't complain. But if you have something like the two products that we started with, they buy it. And that's created quite a buzz in Whole Foods. On Super Bowl Friday, in their largest store, we, according to Whole Foods, was responsible for a very significant bump in sales in prepared foods.
Now, you mentioned, Swami, that currently Whole Foods has your Chinese-style beef and broccoli and barbecue beef. But if you go on the website, amazingprotein.com, you're going to see a whole lot more choices.
Yeah, we do. We make buffalo wing nuggets. We make chicken fried steak, our Lika burgers, which a few years ago, when last time Paul McCartney played in San Francisco, his band is vegetarian, and so they searched all over for the best burgers to feed his band, and ours burgers were the ones that were chosen. I wish I had known about it ahead of time. I'd have happily gone to serve them, but
you and me both.
yeah. So we make like a meatloaf. We make 4 different kinds of meatballs: Italian, Chinese, Japanese, and Indian meatballs, which are called kofta balls, and that's a mixture of Lika and some, Indian lentils. And we make General Tso's chicken, orange chicken. I mean, the list goes on and on. Chili. There's nothing we can't make with Lika. And by the way, even our chicken fried steak, we demoed it one time in Whole Foods, and we spent about a third of the time trying to persuade customers that it wasn't meat, that it was actually vegan.
I was lucky to try the Lika meatloaf once, and also a really, truly delicious chicken salad.
Oh yeah. That's a great example of Lika, because all we're doing is just taking Lika. We add a vegan mayonnaise. We add parsley, celery, and it makes like an incredible dish. It's very tasty, and the Lika absorbs the flavor almost immediately.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Lika in Whole Foods. We're here in Los Angeles on KRLA Radio, and we want to be able to send our listeners, even as early as this evening, to a Whole Foods location near them. Can you tell us a little bit about where we can find Lika, which Whole Foods locations will have it at the ready?
Okay, right now it would be downtown LA, 3rd in Fairfax, 23rd in Wilshire, Long Beach, Venice, Playa Vista, the Hillcrest store in San Diego.
Certainly repeat this information later in the show, because I think that's all important. I know we're getting a lot of people very hungry right now. The vegan industry is evolving. It's becoming quite big. Where do you see Lika fitting in the vegan business over the next 2 or 3 years?
We intend to establish Lika as the gold standard of plant protein globally. That's our objective. And that's a very broad sweep, and it's not easy for a product to do that. We've developed several products for the Indian fast food market in India. And a product has to be very versatile because cuisines vary quite a bit. We make even like our Euro sandwich is another one of the products we make, which originally was made by the chef at Whole Foods, who now is our executive chef. And it was originally made, and they were selling 200 of vegan Euro sandwiches in Whole Foods in downtown San Francisco. And they had a banquet for John Mackey, the CEO, and that was one of the two products that he insisted be served at the banquet.
Swami, when you describe the process of creating Lika's various foods, you refer to it as a technology. Why do you call the process of making Lika food a technology?
Well, because Leica itself is a huge scientific breakthrough in plant protein. It's the process itself. It involves, it's very, very complex. Although we only use 5 ingredients, but the way in which we make Leica, the secret ingredients. Well, the ingredients aren't secret. We only have 5: wheat, barley, mushroom, yeast, and water. How those are combined together to make Leica is a lot more difficult. We've worked with co-packers, and with our help, it sometimes takes over a year for them to get it right. So that's what's unusual about Leica, is that it is. And if you look at, you want to go a little bit deeper into the science of it, it has some very interesting properties in terms of retaining juices and flavors that get into food science at quite a level. How it's able to do that, how it's able to prevent the formation of ice crystals while it's frozen. We've worked with some very, very large, some of the largest food companies in R&D, and they've run our product through all kinds of tests in their R&D facilities, freezing it, thawing it 3 or 4 times, microwaving it 2 or 3 times, and it still maintains its integrity. Even, for example, our meatballs, when Whole Foods in Northern California was originally making them, we just said, while you're doing it, make a whole batch. And they said, well, what if we don't use it all? We said, then freeze it. Well, when you freeze Leica and thaw it out, it actually tastes better, not worse. And they were literally blown away by that. And it does. It improves the texture. So there are inherent properties. A lot of this is proprietary and trade secret, that we obviously can't discuss. But that's why we call it a technology, because it really is. It's a technology of taking basic elements of food and making something that could match any cuisine. And that isn't easy, particularly the product being denatured after it's cooked, and still being able to do that.
Well, you call it technology. I call it incredibly delicious. I call it barbecued, fried, roasted, smoked, sautéed. That's what I call it. And when you think about it not being meat, all of the health benefits are just absolutely astounding.
Yeah, and just because it's technology doesn't mean, the primary goal that we have established on every single product we've ever developed is that it must taste fantastic. So I'll give you an example, if I can, of
Absolutely.
application of food technology to taste, where they equate with each other. Um, Early on, when we were doing our R&D, we were looking for a place to grill our burgers. And so actually through a technology kitchen in Los Angeles, through the utility company in Downey, we got recommended to a company up in Northern California that made all the broilers for Burger King pretty much since 1969. So we went up there, and unbeknownst to us, everybody who makes veggie burgers went there, because if they're trying to do business with Burger King, you have to work on their broilers. And so all these other products would char and burn under high heat. And that wasn't the case with ours. Ours came out tasting identical. Even a Burger King franchisee who owns many of the Burger King restaurants in Northern California could not believe that ours was plant-based. The reason is that the signature flavor of the Whopper comes from the broiler. And these other products were too dense to absorb that. Ours was not. So when the burger came out and they'd call a build where they use the Burger King bun and the lettuce, tomatoes, everything was identical, and they took a bite out of it, they couldn't tell the difference. Well, that goes to that taste equivalence is because of the technology in Leica to absorb, as I said earlier, everything on the spectrum from smoke to cream. And we absorb all the smoky flavor from the broiler flavors. And if you put it in a bag and opened it up, you couldn't tell the difference whether it was a Whopper, even before you ate it, whether it was a Whopper or a plant-based burger.
Well, let's do a little summary here as we have a couple minutes remaining and talk about the benefits to Leica. Again, it's for your health, for the health of the planet, delicious, an incredible array of choices that you just don't see, I don't think, in any other vegan cuisine line. And it's ready and available right now, and you can basically have it the way you want it.
In the next several weeks, we are expanding our partnership with Whole Foods. They've been extraordinarily pleased with Leica. And in addition to that, their flagship store in Playa Vista, which sets the trends for the whole region, has just set up a dedicated Leica bar, which basically features only Leica products. It's in their prepared foods department right now. And that speaks to us. I don't think you see that with other products, and that's because we've reached out to mainstream consumers to introduce them to vegan food and vegan cuisine. And really, the gateway to get there is that the food has to taste fantastic without an aftertaste, and that just doesn't apply to most of these other products. But it absolutely does apply to Leica.
I have to agree with you, Swami, on that. Let's go ahead and repeat the locations, the Whole Foods locations where you can go out now and enjoy a Leica dinner or tomorrow for lunch. And again, we're going to invite all Southern Californians here in KRLA Radioland to visit the Whole Foods markets in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, El Segundo, Venice, Glendale, Long Beach, 3rd and Fairfax, 23rd and Wilshire. Also, for those of us in the San Diego area, Hillcrest in San Diego. And most recently, Leica was added, as Swami just mentioned, with a very branded section, Leica section, in the Heat and Serve area for the Playa Vista store, which is a huge and wonderful store you should obviously go visit. Swami Nadan, thank you so very much for bringing us this delicious food. I think it's easy to say that everybody is going to love Leica.
Yes, we hope so. We love it, and everybody who tries it loves it, and we hope everybody will try it, not just here, but globally as well.
You've been listening to All About Health, and our guest for today's program, Swami Nadan, founder and CEO of the Amazing Protein Company, manufacturers of the all-new line of vegan cuisines, Lika, L-I-K-A. For more information on Leica and to check out Leica's extensive line of delicious vegan choices, visit amazingprotein.com. That's amazingprotein.com. For All About Health here on KRLA, I'm Steve Syatt.